Okay, good evening, class. Welcome to DES 244, Package Design, Week 3. We have several things that we're going to be covering tonight. Some of it I think you'll find very interesting and rewarding to watch. I'm going to go through a couple of PowerPoint slides first. This week's lesson objectives: learn and understand how a bleed line works with package design. Learn and understand how to create more complex mock-ups that look like the real thing. Actually, last week we talked about bleed. We'll talk about it again tonight, just so that you get a solid understanding of what it's all about. I also demonstrated last week how to create a pretty realistic mock-up. And tonight, I'm going to show you how to go ahead and make yourself a very realistic looking mock-up of carton of or container of milk. Learn and understand how to problem solve by using a process in package design. Read the case studies throughout the remainder of the text. In our Week 3 discussion, how do packaging choices help or damage the environment, optimize resources, and assist or distract consumers? Again, you're going to find information in your course discussion, Week 3, and you need to be familiarized with that when you come in and do your discussion. Now, before we go on to our assignment and our assessment, I want to make the following comment about discussion, because there are several of you that are still running into problems with discussion etiquette. So what makes a successful discussion? For your initial posting, be sure to post no later than the Wednesday of the current week. So in other words, if you want me to give you full credit, you got to make sure that you get this in by Wednesday before the end of the day. It's absolutely essential that you do that. Another thing I want to point out is that you need to use referencing and citation. And since you are graphic designers, it is usually a good idea to try to incorporate some sort of a visual into your discussion if it's feasible to do so. A JPEG maybe to illustrate a point is a great idea. So is it mandatory that you do that? No, but I want you guys to start acting like professionals. And all these little things can and will help you to become more professional. What's really important for you to understand is that points will be marked off if you're late on your initial discussion post. And also if you do not use citation and referencing. These are very important points. For student replies, please make sure to give at least 2 individual student replies. Allow enough time for them to reply back to you. Essentially, avoid late posting or last minute. So what I'm getting at here is that the mandatory is 2 individual posts. That's what you're required to do in reply to other students. Also, they should be on different days, 2 different days. At least this shows that you are coming in and participating in the course. I've noticed quite a few of you haven't done this. Some of you haven't even put in reply posts, and your grades will reflect that. Also, a number of you waited until, I don't know, 8 hours, 11 hours, 16 hours before the end of the course. That's really not good discussion etiquette. As I indicate in my reply to you, when you do this, you're not really allowing the students enough time to reply to you. It's almost like you don't want to reply. And that's really not what discussion is about. Discussion is the interaction between students. So please do me a favor and do yourself a favor for your own grades. Really, this is very simple. I mean, how long does it take to log in and go in and read 1 or 2 of the students' posts and reply to them on a night, and then come in the next night, read 1 or 2 of the posts and reply to them on another night? I mean, I think in each case you're not even talking 20 minutes. So you're talking 20 minutes one night, 20 minutes the next night. Come on, that's not that much. I can then give you a good grade. So again, make sure your initial post is posted no later than the end of the day, Wednesday. Make sure it's cited, and make sure you give references. Also, make sure you come in on 2 separate days and leave individual student replies, 2 of them, one night and one another night. And make sure that you don't do it at the last minute, giving somebody, coming in and slamming in 3 or 4 posts, student reply posts, 11 hours before the end of the course for the week is really not participating in discussion. And again, I have to talk about this because last week there still were a number of you that were doing this, and it just absolutely has to be changed. You have to come about, handle this in a different way. So please keep that in mind. Week 3 assignment. You're going to research your package design in the textbook and on the web. Don't forget to visit a local grocery store for creative reference. I tell you to do this because, believe me when I tell you, going in and taking a look at actual product that you're going to mock up, product that you're going to design is going to help you a lot. It'll give you indications as to what kind of colors are being used by these packaging companies, what kind of graphics, how are they handling the graphics, how are they placing the graphics on the package. You can physically hold it in your hand and you can move it around and you can get a real sense of it. So it's absolutely essential that you get familiarized with this particular product and how it's being treated. Your package design should, and again, you're not looking to copy anything, but you should have something that really works for the kind of product that we're talking about, which is milk in a milk carton. The package design you're going to create is for Mayfield's Dairy Farm. Now you can choose chocolate, strawberry, fat-free, skim, or regular whole milk, whatever you want. There's a milk carton die line, which we're going to talk about shortly, and I will bring up, and I'll go over it with you. And you must use this die line in your project. I know that one of the students last week had a problem downloading files. So if you run into a problem, please let me know, and I'll help you out. Important thing about this is that I want you to be creative. One of the things there are 2 things that you're supposed to be learning in this course. Number one, how to use the tools. But the second thing is you're also attempting to develop your own sense of creativity. You've been taught principles of design. Try to work within those principles of design. Make sure that you try to apply them in a way that works. So be creative. Think of your principles of design and make sure that you use the die line carton that's been submitted for your use for the project. You want people to choose your milk over all the other choices, but you still need to be able to display it alongside them. So what that really means is that you want to be the best. You want your product to be the best, the most eye-catching, the most appealing, the one that people are going to gravitate to. You also want it to be relevant. You don't want it to be too over the top, too strange, too odd, because that could put people off. So keep all this in mind when you go in and you do your assignment. And as far as the week 3 assessment, once you have built your milk carton design, you're going to use the same name, the same type, essentially the same graphic elements, etc. And what you're going to do is you're going to modify your first design to create a new design for another milk product. So let's say you did chocolate. Well, maybe what you want to do for your assessment is fat-free skim. Let's say you did strawberry for your assignment. Maybe you want to do whole milk or chocolate. It's up to you. I mean, you can probably pull this off with a few type changes and maybe some background color changes. I will show you how I did one, and I think you'll get the idea once you see that. All your final layouts must be created in Adobe Illustrator. It says InDesign, but frankly, I don't really think this is an InDesign project. The template is an Illustrator template. I think it's probably best done in Illustrator. Plus, if you do it in Illustrator, you have the ability to incorporate into your design the 3D model, which I'm going to demonstrate tonight how to do. So I would basically work in Illustrator. And besides, I think Illustrator is a terrific program that you really need to develop a sense of. Not to say that Adobe InDesign isn't a great program as well. It's an extremely good program. But I think Illustrator is one that would work extremely good for this particular project, and that's why I recommend that you use it. So there you go. Those are my, my PowerPoints. I really don't have any others here. So I'm going to end that for tonight. And we'll next go, before I actually start working on the assignments and the assessments, what I've said that I would do, and I would like to do it since we have several people who have supplied me with pieces, I would like to do a very quick critique of some of the work that I have here submitted by your students. What I intend to do is open them up and talk a little bit about them, and that will be my critique. Giving the person whose project it is the opportunity to see their work and see what I have to say about it, and perhaps maybe give them some creative thoughts as to how they might go in and modify it. So I got 4 here. Let's take a look at the first one here. This is Miss Elliott's. I'll open this up. It'll have to take a second because it's, I think I have a pretty big file. Full-size rendered. Okay, so she's got a full-size render here that I'm going to lose. I think that was her original layout that she was using. Hit cancel. Ignore. Yeah, there we go. And I don't know why I get typed it. Evidently, she's using a type. Okay, so here we have Miss Elliott's layout. And I'm going to be honest with you. I see why TypeKit came up. If you take a look here, honey, tea bags, green tea, whatever. Green is clean and green is good. Evidently, she's using a font that I don't have on my computer. Now, there's something I should tell you about, and that is that when you start submitting things from this point on, I highly recommend that you create outlines for your text before you send it to me. Now, if anybody doesn't know how to do that, I'll show you very quickly how to do that. So I'm going to click the type tool, and I'm going to type my name. Okay, so now I got Bill, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it big enough that you could see it. All right. So, yeah, and again, I distorted it. It doesn't really matter. This is just so that you could get the idea. Now, when you have live type, this is what it looks like. You have this little anchor point over here, and you have this line segment, and you can continue typing letter after letter after letter after letter, and it just will continue running off in this direction. I call this live type. This is type that's editable. I can go in and I can change the weight. I can change the font style. I can kern it. I can do all kinds of things type-wise with this. So it's live type. When you create outlines for this type, which is what I'm going to do next, when you create outlines for this type, you essentially are removing all the type elements from within the type, and you're going to turn these letters into nothing more than just graphic shapes. The advantage to doing that is once you have reached a point with your type where you have it exactly the way you want it, by creating outlines, you essentially freeze that type in that particular font. You can still go in and change the size of it. You can still go in and move the characters from place to place and modify things like that, change the color, but you can't change the font face. Like, for instance, I can't come over to the character palette and I can't change it from Myriad Pro over to Mistral, okay? See, I can do that with live type. The moment I come over here, though, and go type, create outlines, see what happens? It now becomes a graphic shape. There it is, graphic shape. And if I come over to the, as a matter of fact, I don't even get my type palette anymore because it's no longer type, it's graphic shapes. See, there's the little anchor points on each of the characters. Okay, the reason that I'm pointing this out to you is, before we go any further with this, is by creating outlines, you alleviate the problem that occurred here. The honey, the 18, the honey, the green is good, the green is clean, green tea directions. That lettering was in a certain type font. Because she did not outline them, and because I don't have that font on my machine can't really display that font, and it defaults back to some very simple font here. So my problem is that I can't get the full value of this particular design because a part of it is missing. So what I'm getting at is, before you send this to me in the future, And this is something that you should consider for all your other classes, because you're going to have other classes, and what you're going to be doing with those other classes is you're going to be supplying artwork to other instructors. And you're going to want to make sure that the other instructors are able to see it directly the way it's supposed to look and not like I'm seeing it. And I'm sure Miss Elliott knows what I'm talking about, because she was the one who designed this, and she knows that there are certain fonts on here that are not showing the way they should show. So what I'm saying to you is, before you submit in the future, especially if you're going to submit it as a .ai file. If you were to have submitted this as a PDF file, I could open it in PDF, because the PDF will basically embed the fonts that are being used, and I could see what it looks like in the way she designed it originally. But if I tried to open that up in Adobe Illustrator, the same thing would occur, because Illustrator is a production application, and what would happen is it would default back to wanting to show the font, and it doesn't have the ability to show the font because it's not on my computer. So use the create outlines before you submit to your instructor in the future. Okay, so that's the first thing as far as my critique, and that's a technical critique. The second thing is that this is a mock-up, and you'll see that in many cases we have bleeds going on here. Notice how the picture is running out past the bleeds. Can everybody see how the red line, which indicates the bleed, everybody can see that bleed line there, right? And everybody can see that that line is, and again, some of these images run past the bleed line, which technically is okay. I mean, the bottom line is it has to go at least to the bleed line. If it goes a little bit beyond the bleed line, that's fine. It's really okay. So that aspect of what she did is correct. But there is a really cool little trick here, since we are working on a project that we might be showing as a mock-up. We want this to be something that looks like the actual piece and how that piece looks. There's a cool little technique here that we can employ to hide the bleed area and just make it so that the panels go right to where it belongs, and that is on the edge of your cut. And that is this. What you're going to do is you're going to select that line right there, which is that's your die line, okay? And you're going to go edit copy or edit cut. In this case, I'm just going to go edit cut. And then I'm going to select everything on the page. And I'm going to go edit paste in front. Okay, so now what I've done is, wherever that position was, and it might have been the front in the first place, but wherever it was, what I wanted to do is I wanted to move it to the front of everything. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to select it all, and I'm going to make a clipping mask out of it. And by doing that, you know what? Actually, here's what I need to do. Let me go edit undo, because now that I think about it, edit undo cut there. Okay, and I'm going to click it again, select it, and I think what I'm going to do is go edit copy. Yeah, edit copy. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select these two, and yeah, she's got it all the way around. That's right. I'm going to go object lock selection. Let me do this in a more complex way. All right, so what I did was I copied that die line, and the die line, the original die line and the original bleed line, I basically locked. See, so when I drag over them, they don't get selected. They don't get entered into my. So I'm going to go edit paste in front, and now I've pasted that. Actually, edit undo. I need to select everything first. There we go. And now go edit paste in front. Okay, so what I did was I placed a copy of that die line, which is the blue line, in front of everything. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to select everything again, and I'm going to go to the object menu, and I'm going to go compound path, or clipping mask, I'm sorry, clipping mask, make. And see what it does. When I deselect it, what it does essentially is it crops every single thing all around the entire piece at that die line. So now if I go Object Unlock All and click on the die line and go Object Hide Selection, I now have, this is that background, forget that. I now have what looks like a really nice mock-up of the package. And the die line is not thrown away, it's merely hidden. So this is what the actual package is going to look like once it is actually printed before it's folded up. So this is just a really nice production technique for you to understand how to do when you produce something like this, so that when you send it in to someone like myself, or hopefully in the near future to a client, you could actually send it in looking exactly like what it's going to appear like when the thing is really printed and it's brought to its edge, to its die. Very nice and very easy, and a great way to handle something like this. So that's the second thing. Now, the third thing, as far as the critique is concerned, I would like to say myself personally, Miss Elliott, that I think you did a pretty terrific job. This, to me, as a matter of fact, the first time I saw this, I almost thought that you kind of like copied this. Literally, I just grabbed panels and put it. I couldn't believe how nicely you did this. This really looks like a Lipton product. This, to me, looks very much like what you would see Lipton do. I was very convinced by it. I even like the fact that you were able to get the logo, and you got the logo in ping form. Basically, I think you did a terrific job with this. This is a very hard one to critique because it is a very good job, generally speaking. There's a lot of really nice stuff going on here. You went in and you found really good images. And this is the other thing I want everybody to understand here. You know, when you do this kind of work, you go in and you get these images. This is not real. In the real world, you would have images given to you, or you as a creative person would go online to a photo resource and you would purchase images that you would use. You just wouldn't go online and take them off the internet and put them in. But since we're working on a project like that, that's exactly how you would do it. But she made incredibly good choices for this, and generally speaking, her layout is nice and clean and extremely logical. This looks very much like a professional Lipton package. And again, Lipton is a brand, a very known brand. It's been around for a long time. So, you know, something like this would very easily work, and Lipton has the advantage over many brands of having name recognition, something that I think that will help it quite a bit. I mean, I even like little touches like the way she's incorporated the recycling symbol here. It just really works. The whole thing works extremely well. So it's a very difficult one for me to critique because I'm having a hard time being critical of it because, again, she did a great job on it. I mean, there are small little problems I notice over here, for instance, that this panel has a little area that clips off here. You don't quite get the color to go far enough over there. That's something that you would want to fix because that wouldn't look pretty good, even though it's not in the most critical of area. Just see what I'm talking about. There's one little type of area down here that's just not showing right. You'd have to deal with that. This is normal. This is what's happening here is it's bleeding over to this tab, but this tab doesn't show. So that would be logical. That would be normal. That would be correct. So again, really very good job overall. I'm very impressed by this, and I wish that somebody else was here tonight so that they could make a comment, either pro or con towards it. But my overall feeling was that, generally speaking, very nicely done, and I think your grade will reflect that. So thank you for submitting it. I'm really glad that you did. Unfortunately, it made it a little difficult for me to go 100% with this because I don't know exactly what honey and 18 and green tea directions and good green is good. I really don't know what that looks like. The way it defaults doesn't look too bad, but I'm sure it even looked better with the font that you had there. Other than that, though, I think you did really well. I think you made great choices. And, you know, honey tea, it really reads honey tea. It really looks like something that Lipton would create. Very good job. That's that one. And now I have Miss Webb. I'm going to double click on this. This is a little different. Now, this particular piece, there's two pieces for this. There's a front and a back, I believe. No, wait, I'm sorry. No, there's one label and there's a hang tag. So let's look at the label first. Okay. So first of all, she has a background, and I think the background actually works pretty well. I like the background. It's very interesting, and it does give you a kind of a wine feel. The type that she uses, in my opinion, works very well as a wine-related kind of type. I definitely think the Brittany's Vineyards works well. I think the type is good. The color's correct. And I like the little graphics that you used here, kind of an Art Nouveau-y kind of graphic. I kind of like that. Presents an estate bottle, vintage 1951 Merlot, Shawnee Valley, wine country, and Illinois. Generally okay. I think maybe the arrangement of the lines might be a little bit cockeyed. You might want to work on that a little bit and see if you could come up with something a little bit more. I don't know. It's just it works in a very obtuse way, and I think maybe it could stand a little bit of refinement. I'm just not 100% sold on it. So this is fine, this is fine, and basically it's fine. I would just play around with the arrangement of the lines. Again, this kind of thing that's going on over here, I find a little bit problematic, so you might want to see if you could work that out a little bit more. There are many ways that you could align this. I would just try doing that. The government warning. You got the government warning there. You have to have this. It's very small. That's the way it should be, and very good. If you're going to have one label, though, you may want to include in that one label, might want to include the scanning device, the barcode. So you might want to include the barcode. However, what you could do is you could create a very simple back label, and the barcode could go on the very simple back label. That's another way of handling this. Nobody says you can't possibly do a back label. Okay. The other problem that I have, and this looks fine, basically. The other problem I have is that you tend to use the same font all the way down here. Everything is done in this same font. I'm not one for doing that. I think you should at least have two fonts working here. I'm not saying necessarily this, because this is different. This is a separate little entity. This government warning is something that's required. So, I mean, I would just make that very simple, very small, and what you did with it is absolutely fine. Okay, it's the fact that all the fonts on here are the same. You probably need to come up with either a serif or a sans serif font to coordinate with the font that you're using. I'm not exactly sure which script this is, but you would probably want to use the script, and you'd probably want to come up with some kind of a nice serif or a nice sans serif font to do that. Another problem I have is that over in the corner here, you've got Brittany's Vineyards, and you got this address here. Why it's stuck over here when you have this much space over here, I don't quite understand. What I would do is I would either try maybe centering it more somehow, or bring it over more so that it comes closer. Having it jammed over to the side like this doesn't work. Another way to do it would be to perhaps go in less lines. Like, for instance, you'd have Brittany's Vineyard and maybe go 1234 Grapevine Drive, Shawnee, Illinois in one line, and then Made in USA, maybe something like that. You know, again, I don't know. I just think that having it stacked up over here and jammed on this edge like that doesn't work very well. You need to try to figure out a placement for that that's a little bit better. And again, down here, net weight 1 liter. See, that reads very badly. So an ALC VOL, they see that reads extremely badly. So what I would do is, again, I would find myself some kind of a nice serif font or sans serif, and I honestly don't care which. One or the other would work, whatever you like, and whatever you think would go along with the colors that you're using and with the type that you're using, which is the vintage Merlot type and the Brittany's Vineyard type. And even up in here, I try to break this up a little bit. I wouldn't use all the same font. That's something that a lot of students do that is really a mistake, is that they lock themselves into just one font, thinking, well, you know, I want it to look right, and I want it to look all the same. But generally, designers don't do that. Generally, designers are not afraid to work with a secondary font, and I want you to be bold, and I want you to do that. So that's my critique of this. I like the background. I like the font that you got. I think your colors are great. Your government warning is appropriate. I think you probably need some sort of a very simple back label so that you could incorporate the barcoding, which would be essential, because if it's sold without a box, I mean, obviously if you have a box for this, the box can have the barcoding and the bottle will be in the box and you'll be cool. But if for some reason you're selling this loose without a box, then you have to have the barcode on the actual product. So that would require a second label. So I would go ahead and just make a simple back label that could then hold the barcode. And then if you want, the other thing you could do is at the same time put that government warning on the back label with the barcode. And that would alleviate you having to have that on the front. And then you could concentrate most on just the nice elements that you have, which basically talks about it's estate bottled and where it's bottled, and then you can put your addressing and stuff like that. So 2 different fonts. I would look for a second font, maybe something like a serif or a sans serif that works nicely with the type that you have. You're looking for kind of a quality style, upscale look to it. Get a nice font to go along with this, and then create yourself a second back label. Okay. As far as your hang tag is concerned, frankly, the hang tag works just fine. I don't have a real problem with it. Try our spectacular selection of wines tonight to set the mood just right. That's another thing too. Now, if you're going to incorporate a trade line like this, a tagline like this, I would probably incorporate that also on your label. So if that is in fact a tagline, and many of these companies use these taglines, that tagline should probably also appear on your label. So that's my criticism of that. And again, you might want to consider two types, the Brittany's Vineyard and a secondary type, either a really nice serif or sans serif font. Other than that, though, this is actually pretty good looking hang tag. It does the job very well, coordinates extremely well with your other piece. So, this is largely pretty good. Okay? The other one, you understand what I think about that. Finally, and we have this guy right here. This is Samantha's piece. I don't know what this thing is. Where are we at here? We're in, okay. Let's go, let's see if I can zoom out. Let's see here. Let's go 75%. Oh, you know what? I'm just going to leave it the way it is. What I like about this is that, again, here we got a very similar situation. We have some colors that run over, and I mean, she could do the same thing with this. She could literally take her, and again, I can't do this because this is in Adobe Reader, so I can't really edit this. I can't really modify this, but Samantha could really do the same thing where she selects the die line, and she could crop everything to that die line and, hide all this up here and hide this over here and this over here. And I think ultimately that might make a nice presentation. Yeah, so she could do that, and that would make things even nicer. One thing I wonder about here is this picture of the pumpkins. I would think this picture of the pumpkins should go like over the entire thing. Why? I mean, maybe it's just the picture was too small, but why would that picture have a gap here? Why would this be white? That, to me, see, it doesn't show that way on the top of her mock-up. So apparently she's modified the top of the mock-up so that it looks the way it probably should look, which is that picture is going to go over the entire top of the package. So again, I think probably she needs to get a better picture of pumpkins to work with, or she's going to have to rescale this pumpkin picture so that it will fit the entire panel. And I'm not sure she could do that because I don't know whether the picture has enough resolution to do that properly. But that's a problem because it really isn't going to look like that. And that's, I think, the look she's going for. So that would be a problem, this picture. But I think probably that would not be a problem in real world, because more than likely she'd have a picture that would be big enough to do what she has to do. She probably went online, probably got this picture, and she probably determined that the size of it was not good. But again, I'd rather you don't take liberties like that. I really would much rather have you set the page up the way it's supposed to look. That's the most important thing. There's a couple of other little minor issues here, and not actually only one really, and that is the nutritional facts over here. Both of these nutritional facts probably should be a little bit smaller. I'm always very uncomfortable when I see any kind of graphic or type that comes this close to a fold. There's the fold right there. That panel folds right there. And this panel probably folds, or I'd say probably right about here, right on that line right there. So it folds right about there. See how close this graphic is and that graphic there? We really don't want elements to be that close. We want them to be at least 1/8 of an inch away from that margin of the folds. So those two panels really need to be made a little bit smaller. And that would be one thing I would definitely recommend that you do. Down here at the bottom, I noticed this text is very close to that die. I'd move, and you got plenty of space above it. I'd move that up a little bit also. And another thing I noticed is that you've got this little, white area mortised out of the yellow background. What you really need to do is you really need to extend that over. So, because you don't want that line there, it doesn't really look very good. So from a technical standpoint, this thing should come further out so that the white goes all the way out and it breaks it evenly on both sides. That's what you want to do. So again, not a really big deal, but there are some very fine tweaks that you could make to this to make it look a little bit better. Experience, terrific. That's very tiny. I would probably go 2 lines, and I'd probably try to make it a little bit bigger. The pumpkin spice, I probably would make that a little bit bigger too, because again, that's the name. Pumpkin spice definitely is the name, and I think probably making it a little bit bigger would help quite a bit. You can also modify the line spacing between the two words once you start making it bigger. But think in terms of visibility of elements, how easily it is to see and read the element. Your colors are good. I like the colors very much because it's pumpkin spice, and those two colors are they really do give you the feeling of pumpkin and spice. So I think it works really good. When I look at your mock-up, I'm really happy to see that you made the mock-up and that you were successful with it, and it does look pretty good. However, what happens with this is there's actually a setting in there that you could use to shade the box. And if you had used that shading of the box, it would have been a little harder for it to render, but you would have gotten slight color on this and slight color on that, and it would look more real. As it is right now, this white panel almost disappears, and it breaks the illusion somewhat. So that would be my other critique. But I would say generally not a bad job. Just make the changes that I've indicated with you. Oh, another thing I'm noticing too is over here, this looks like this thing's on a white background. Looks like it is over here in a white background. I demonstrated last week how to take this in and do a take the image and image trace, go in and do an image trace. I would recommend trying to do an image trace with that and follow the settings, follow the directions that I did when I created my image trace, and you'll get a nice vector graphic that you can use. If the quality suffers a tiny bit, that's okay, because the bottom line is this is a mock-up. This is a demonstration of what you know in Adobe Illustrator. That's what I'm looking for more than anything else. I am actually going to say this again. I'm glad to see that you went in and you worked with your 3D model and you came up with a 3D model for it. So that's it. those are my critiques. Those are the people that submitted. Thank you for submitting. And what I would like to remind you is that we have one more week coming up next week, and I would very much like to have you submit to me any pieces that you would like me to critique, so that I could kind of give my critique on it next week. So it would be really good if you sent it in. I gave instructions how to do that. What you want to do is just send me an email, attach the email, a PDF, or an Illustrator file. Remember two things if you're going to send me an Illustrator file. Remember that you want to go to the links panel, and you want to make sure that you embed all the images. You want to make sure that all the images are embedded, because if you send me a file and the images aren't embedded, see, Illustrator by default links images. So if you send me an Illustrator file and you've got images that are not embedded, and here's what you go to do that. You go to the window menu, and you go to the links, and I have no images on this particular one, but over here in the drop-down menu, you see where it says embed images? If I had images in here, I would click on the layer, and then I would go up and I would go embed image, and that image would embed. And what would happen is you'd see a little graphic appear over here, and that would tell you that the resource, that image, is embedded. So that's the first thing that you want to do. You want to make sure that you embed the image using the links panel. This way, whatever links you send me will be honored, and when I open the file up, all the images will show. So it's critical that you do that. Then the other thing that you want to remember to do is what I demonstrated earlier, and that's going up to the type menu with the text selected, type, and then come down and go create outlines. By creating outlines, you now have the text turned into graphic shapes, and you and I don't have to worry about those shapes opening up and not displaying. Now the same thing goes for PDFs. If you send me a PDF and I try to open a PDF up in Adobe Illustrator, I'm going to have the same problem. I'm going to have this thing open up, and because it is not an outlined font, I am not going to be able to get it to open. So it's really critical that you know to do this. Okay, so this is the layout that you're going to get, the milk carton that you're going to get, and this is what you're going to actually build. Again, you'll notice that this thing here, instead of using gray lines, it's using these sort of reddish lines. Now, let's go to the layers menu, go to the Windows menu, and let's go to layers. And you see that you got a die line layer. Okay, they call this whole thing the die line layer. And you got this carton info, which talks about all the different panels, which I'm not showing. You got your bleed area, okay? And then you've got your artwork layer. Now, the problem that I have with this is that I'm not used to looking at the bleed layer as blue. I'm used to looking at that as red. So the first thing that I would do is I would come in and I would unlock the layer, and I'd come over here and click on this guy to target, and then I'd select that layer. And since it's a stroke, I'd come over here and I would double click on this, and let's see if I can make this color picker do what I want it to do. Yeah, bring it all the way up to there, and then I'm going to drag all the way up to here, and I'm going to hit OK. And now when I deselect it, I have a red line, which is what I'm more used to looking at when I look at a bleed. Now, as far as the other is concerned, let's go back to our layers panel, and I'm going to relock the bleed layer, and then I'm going to show the die line, or unlock the die line layer, and I'm going to target it, and I'm going to come in here and I'm going to change that to blue, and I think I'm going to change that to a lightish blue and hit OK. And now I have that, and that I find a little bit more comfortable as far as how I work. Really what I would ultimately like to do is those little lines that are dashed lines, I would really like them to be gray. But, you know, this is okay as well. I basically set this thing up so that I have my bleed showing in red, which is what I'm most used to looking at. And, of course, I have my die. So now I'm going to be able to come in and I'm going to be able to work on this. And, again, there are layers. Let's find the layers again. I think I might have shut it by accident. Layers. Yeah, I did. Let me actually put this into the mix over here. There we go. Now I can open it. Okay, so I have a die line, a carton, a bleed, and artwork. And what I should really do is I should take the artwork and bring the artwork all the way to the top. Bring it all the way to the top. I kind of like things to go that way. And then what I'm going to do is to make things easier, I'm going to just lock down the die line and the bleed line. So this way I can't really interact with the die line and the bleed line. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to proceed to come in and I'm going to build on all of my panels the artwork that's going to go for my package. In a minute, I'm going to take you over and I'm going to show you my layout. But before I do that, I just want to very quickly come in and show you the required images. This is the barcode. It's essentially the same barcode that you used last week. We're going to use it again. I want to remind you, as I did last time, that this barcode, let's watch this, I'll show you. This barcode is a transparent barcode. Watch when I click on blue and hit OK and go Object, Arrange, oops, Arrange, Send to Back. There. So you see the barcode itself, those are all little vector lines and those numbers are all little vector shapes. And I've just put a blue panel behind it. But if you remember what I told you last week, I told you that the barcode really needs to have white behind it, a mortised area of white behind it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this object that I created. I'm going to start off by removing the stroke because I don't want the strokes. I'm sorry, remove the stroke. I don't want the stroke. And then I'm going to bring the fill forward and I'm going to click on white. See my color? Click on white. And now I have a white background with black text. And if I select the whole thing, Control A, I go Object Group. When I deselect it, when I reselect it, the whole thing selects. So now what I can do is I can select this and go Edit Copy, and then just go Edit Paste into my milk carton, and I have everything that I need for the milk, for the barcode to display properly. So please remember to do that. It's absolutely essential that you understand the barcode to work properly has to have a white mortised area behind it. So when it goes over the scanner is very clearly and easily differentiating between the numbers and the lines and the white background. Very important that you do that, okay? The required elements, view, zoom out. The required elements that we have are, I believe they're the same as they were in the other packaging, which is your tea box. So you've got recycling elements, you've got some nutritional facts, and you've got two different ways of displaying your nutritional facts. So you decide. You don't have to show them both. It's not necessary that you show both of these. You only need to show one. So you have to decide whether you want to show this one or whether you want to show this one. So ultimately here, if you're going to use the elements on this page, what you're going to do is you're going to choose one of these that you like. You're going to choose this. And I'm not exactly sure. Yeah, I don't think this has any white background on it either. So again, if you're going to use this one, you're going to have to put a white background behind it. These, on the other hand, though, I think, yeah, you see, they have white backgrounds on them already. So you don't have to worry about putting a white background on that. But you do have to put a white background on this, because if I select the whole thing and drag it over here, you can see it doesn't have a white background on it. And I'm telling you very flat out, you really do need to have a white background behind that, because this scanner needs to be able to read that cleanly. Okay? So those are your required elements. Those are the things that you don't have to design. You just have to basically use them. Now, as far as the assessment milk carton is concerned, let me go zoom out. And these are the two pieces that I created. And essentially, I see that one of mine has some type that's changed as well. So mine is missing some type, and unfortunately, you know, it's not the end of the world. I think you get the general idea. I chose whole milk, and I decided on a color scheme for whole milk, which was a blue, a very mid-range blue, very lightish blue, and I had a somewhat pinkish color for the bottom and then white through the middle. That was my color scheme for this. And I used the logo, the Mayfield logo, with essentially a brown cow. And then I used separate elements. You know, I just came up with a number of different elements that I used to fill the rest of my panels. And that's it. I mean, that's how I chose mine. That's how I chose what I chose mine to look like. You could come in. I actually used both of these nutritional facts, which is wrong. I shouldn't have used both of them. But again, it's not really the end of the world. You get the general idea. And what you're seeing here in pink are the fonts that are basically missing. There's a font that's missing in here. If I click on it, I probably can figure out what it is. It's character. Let's see what it is. Yeah, Myriad Roman. So what I would have to do is I'd have to change this from Myriad Roman to Myriad Pro. Myriad Pro, and then choose Myriad Pro. Oh, it didn't catch. Well, let's see if I can maybe do it this way. All right, Myriad, HRJK, Myriad. Let's go Myriad. MYR, Myriad Pro. There we go. Myriad Pro and regular. And let's see if that does it. It didn't. You know why? I probably got to select it. And let's try it, see what it does. It defaulted back to, yeah, to Myriad Roman. So let's go to Myriad Pro. Myriad Pro. There. Regular. And let's see if that changed it now. Yep, it did. So I just changed that to Myriad Pro regular, and I think you can see that it's not that different. It's just that the particular font that I chose at the time was called Myriad Roman. And apparently on this computer, I don't have Myriad Roman. So I was able to substitute this for Myriad Pro, and no harm was done. So that's the important thing for you to understand, is that, you know, you choose fonts, but if you send the font to me, and again, this was done, I think, on my other computer in CS6 originally. I did this originally in CS6. This is now, I'm on Creative Cloud, and I'm on another computer, so I might not have the exact same fonts in here. So again, no big deal, but just keep all that in mind. Let me close a few of these things because I'm done. No, let me just get rid of that, get rid of that, and get rid of that, because I got a couple of other things, yeah, that I want you to look at tonight before we finish. So anyway, there is my whole milk, and let me scroll over and we'll take a look at the second one that I did, which is chocolate milk. And again, you know, this is really just a variation. If you take a look at this, what did I do different? Maybe I changed a couple of words. I certainly changed the color at the top and bottom from the blue and the pinkish color to a nice chocolatey, very light chocolatey milk color, and then just went in and modified the fonts. Look, organic chocolate, low-fat milk. You know, so I'm not saying that this has to be a major production for you. If you are clever, you can simply change these things very quickly and very easily. And you notice that I used the Mayfield Dairy Farm. I used a lot of brown in mine so that it worked on both very readily. So that's another thing that you might want to consider doing, is come up with a color scheme that works for both very easily. Because usually when you have a product such as milk like this, the milk companies have more than one type of milk. And they don't normally want to have a completely different carton for each particular product. They want something that's kind of like similar to one another. They want it to be a little bit easier for them to deal with. So they come up with product packaging that can be very quickly modified, and they use standard elements. Their logos generally appear always the same, more or less, and or with slight modifications, and then they use different color schemes and some different wording, and boom, they're off to the races. So there you go. And then, of course, if you take a look over to the right a little further, you can see, and I'll zoom this out, view, zoom out, I created a really fun package of a carton of milk. which is the next thing that I'm going to do, and that's going to show you essentially how I did this. I'm going to go in and show you a very quick demonstration of how I did this, and that will end my lecture and discussion for tonight. But this is something that I think we'll work on in a minute, and you'll enjoy how I do it, and I think you'll be able to pull it off yourself. So there's mine. Let me go view fit all in window. So there really is your assignment and assessment for the week. And of course, this isn't necessarily part of the assignment or assessment, but this is something, number one, that's really nice to do, and number two, a challenge. And it's the kind of thing that I'd like to see it try to do, because this is what really makes Illustrator powerful and interesting, and you should learn how to do these things in this program. And frankly, I don't think it's that difficult. I do think it's something that you can pull off real easy. I've got a couple of techniques that I'm going to show you that I hope will help you do it. And I'd like you to give it a try if you feel up to it. Will I fail you if you don't? Absolutely not. It's just something that I challenge you to do, and I think it'll be worth your while. Okay? So there's your assignment and your assessment. Unfortunately, nobody's here. I can't really answer any questions about it, but I think it's fairly clear. I think basically you got the idea of what's going on with this. And again, if you have any trouble or any questions or any problems, email me, give me a call, whatever you want. Please do me a favor, though. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday during the days, I mean, I'm on the East Coast, so my time is usually, Mountain Time is usually 2 hours behind me. So at 5 o'clock Mountain Time, it's 7 o'clock my time. So the reason I'm saying this is because I do work days, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesdays for an import company as a graphic designer marketer, and I'm not available during the day to speak very long. I answer a call very briefly, but I can't get into a long discussion daily. But in the evenings on Monday I'm in a class, but Tuesdays and Wednesdays in the evenings, I'm more than happy to speak with you if you want to give me a call, and you have my number. On Thursdays and Fridays, I'm also available for calls. So if you want to try to give me a call on Thursday or Friday, please feel free to do so. I will do my best to answer. If I'm available at the time you call me, I will talk to you right away. If not, I will let you know when I can call you back or when you can call me back. One way or the other, though, I'm more than happy to speak to you about this. So there is your milk carton, and one of the important things I want you to do is to have fun with this. Enjoy doing this. This is not boring work. This is actually fun work. I'd love to be able to do more of this. I don't get to do packaging very often. Right now I'm working on redesigning the branding for an entire importing company. I have like 5 logos that I got to redesign, which is tremendous fun. I mean, I really enjoy doing logos, and especially when you've got 4 or 5 of them that you have to rebrand and you have to coordinate them so that they're part of a family of appearance. It's really challenging and a lot of fun to do this. So, I mean, I'm looking forward to doing that, but I also would like to do more in the way of packaging, because packaging is a pretty cool area. So do enjoy yourself when you do this. This is something that I think you should really have some fun with, okay? And I hope you do enjoy it. So there is your assignment, your assessment. I'm going to close this, and this is the last thing I got for you tonight. We'll see how long this goes. I'm not going to hurry with it. I'm going to take my time, because we have at least another hour here. Probably won't need a whole hour to do this, but I want to do it slowly enough that I can really get you guys a chance to understand what I'm doing. So I'm not going to save any changes to this, and this is the last thing that we're going to look at for tonight. I am going to show you how I did this. I think you're going to find it interesting. I think you're going to find it challenging. So let's see if I go to the view menu. Let's see how I got this set up. Go view, fit all in window. Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. So what I have here is I have 2 panels. These are my symbols, and if I go to my symbol panel, I have my symbols in here. And this is called the side panel, and this is the front panel. And all I did was I went into Adobe Illustrator, and I reproduced the panel for the front of my carton to size to fit this. Here's how I made this carton. I started out with this shape right here. This is my shape right there. And I also modified the shape like that, but I did that once I have the panel going. The problem I encountered when I distorted this shape is the symbol that I put on it doesn't like to be distorted. And I'm going to show you what happens with it, and then I'm going to show you how I fixed it. It's kind of an interesting thing. This is what I start off with, though. I start off with this shape right here. So let me move this shape out of the way. Okay? So, before I do this, there's one other thing I want to show you. I'm going to go File, New, and I'm just going to throw out a new document. Hit OK. All right. I'm going to go File, Open, and I'm going to come in here and see where it says milk carton blank JPEG. I'm going to click on that and hit Open. And don't worry about that. And now I get that. Go to the View menu and go Zoom out. Yeah, zoom out, view, zoom out. Okay, now here's my milk carton. See how big it is? Because that's my document page. Look at how big this guy is. Okay, so what I did essentially was I came in here and I scaled this guy down to size. All right, I scaled this down until, I could probably make this just a little bit bigger. That's good. Okay, so I went online, just so that you understand how I did this. I just simply went online, and believe it or not, I Googled blank milk carton. And I did a Google search, and I came up with a bunch of blank milk cartons. And I simply saved this one. It was a really nice big one. That's what I'm always looking for. Whenever I go online, I'm looking for images of any kind. I'm looking for nice, big images. So I went and I Googled blank milk carton. I found the biggest one that I could find, which fortunately for me was this one, which is exactly what I was looking for. So in reality, I went in and I created my milk carton originally from this guy right here. Okay? And as a matter of fact, I'll point this out to you. If you go in and take a look in your announcements, you're going to find that in your announcements there is a announcement that has a zipped folder that has some stuff that I sent you. One of the things was this, and I believe the other one was a version of, let's go here. All right, I don't really need this because it opened it up in its own file, but another version of this. It may not be this one, but there's a version of this in there so that you could get started with this. This guy right there, here's what I did, just so that you know. Watch this. You see how that looks right there? Watch this. If I click on that, you see how that looks? This is that shape after this shape after I modified it to that shape. Now watch when I come over to the window menu and I open up the appearance panel. You'll see when I scroll the appearance panel down, see where it says 3D extrude and bevel mapped? Watch what happens when I click the eyeball off on that. What happens essentially is the artwork goes back to just being that shape right there. See it? It goes back to being that shape right there. And you'll notice that when it does that, this panel doesn't go away. Because when I modified the shape of my box to look like this, I wasn't able to put that side panel on the 3D model. So what I actually had to do is I actually had to take this and free transform it so that it sat in front of that panel. I know this probably sounds a little confusing to you, but I'm going to try to get through a demonstration of how to do this now very quickly, and you'll see what I mean when I do it, and it'll give you an idea of how to overcome problems when problems like this occur. There's always a way out if you're willing to take the effort. So I'm going to get rid of this, and I'm going to come back in, and I'm going to put back, I got to click this first, and I'm going to put back my 3D extrude and bevel, okay? And then I'm going to come over to this one and click on this one. So what I did, just so that you know, is I went in and I took the 3D object and I turned it into a raster. Essentially, what a raster is it's a bitmap. Now watch when I drag this thing up. Can you see what happens here? Do you see I get the white there? I get that white because it's now rasterized. And a raster is a bitmap, or like the equivalent of a JPEG. and JPEGs do not have transparency. So because of that, I get this white area at the top. But since it's against a white background, you don't see that. The reason I did that was because now what I can do is I can go in here, and instead of using this guy right here, I can come in and I can just trace off of this guy right here, because it's almost the same thing. I mean, that's really what it is. And I actually have inside of my folder, let me open up my folder here if I can find it. All right, go to this and go to week 3. And I have in here my assignment. Yeah, I think so. There we go. Milk carton blank settings, 3D settings. Okay, so here's my 3D settings. I'm going to open this back up in a minute. This is what I use to do my 3D model, okay? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm now going to come in and I'm going to show you how I created this. I'm going to start off by keeping this guy right here, and I'm going to go Object, Lock, Selection. So essentially now I've locked that piece down. I can't get at it. I can't move it. It's just going to sit there. And I'm going to start recreating this using that object right there. I want you to notice something. Instead of me making this carton dead white, I went in and I made it a very light gray color. And I might even make it a little bit lighter so that you could see me do this. Okay, hit OK. Very light gray color. Okay, so instead of it being cold, dead white, it's a very light gray color. So the first thing that I do with this guy to get us started is this. I'm going to go back in. Let's go back into my folder here, and let's open up my 3D settings. And let me move my 3D settings over here and close this. The reason I want these 3D settings here is because I'm going to play with this for a second, and then I'm going to bring the 3D settings out, and I'm going to show you the settings that I used to make that carton using my model. And it'll give you an idea of how you go about doing this. And just so that you know, these 3D settings that I have over here, how did I find them? I found them by moving this around and by moving these until I got the shape and the positioning that I wanted, which was that. And then I also went in and I set the extrude depth to where I got it to look like that. So I did it just by playing with it. And then I thought, you know, in order for me to make this thing easier when I try to teach this, it's probably a good idea to go in and just basically save or do a screen capture of that setting so I can go right to those settings and you can see this thing work, voila, you know. So that's what I did. So let's go in and let's play with this and see what we come up with. This has got to be selected. Oh, and by the way, how I got this is I just simply came in here and I drew a rectangular shape over top of my milk carton blank. Let's go to the milk carton blank. I came in here and I drew a shape like this and came in until I got it covering the milk carton blank. That's basically how I did it. And then I came in and I colored it like that and hit OK. And now I got that. That's how I did it. That's how I began this process, coming up with roughly the size and shape that I needed to create that box, that 3D panel. That's how I did it. So that's where this came from, okay? And if you take a look at this, you'll see that this is essentially set up for this one, okay? So it works out to be about the same. Go to Effect, 3D, Extrude and Bevel. Now, when I get the Extrude and Bevel, let me hit Cancel for a second, because let me move this over, and let me move this over as well. Go Object, Unlock All, move this over some, and let me move this over some, so because the panel's kind of big, and click on this again and go Object, Lock, Selection, select this, go to Effect, 3D, Extrude and Bevel. Okay, so now I've got my 3D Extrude and Bevel, and there's my object, and all I need to do to get started is hit Preview, and I get something that looks like that, which really doesn't look anything like what I'm looking for. So now what I got to do is I got to start playing around with this shape and deciding how I can make this shape look more like that box. Well, you know, I can come up here and I can change like some of these settings, like isometric left. Now that's getting closer to it, but I think it's a little too extreme. So maybe what I might do with this is I might come in here and I might raise that somewhat. And you know, we're getting a little closer still. We're getting a little bit closer still. although I don't think it's quite right. I'll probably try raising it a little bit more. Let's try bringing up a little bit. And now I'm getting even closer to it, although I still don't think it's exactly where I want it to be. Let's bring it up about like this. See, the problem also is that I get this distortion this way. So you got to be very careful with this particular model. Otherwise, you could run into a situation where you're not getting what you're looking for. It's not too bad, but again, you fool around with this and fool around with this and fool around with this until you get something. Otherwise, you come in here and what you do is this. Take a look. I come over and I set this to 0. And the next one I set to 35. And the next one I set to 0. And then I come down to perspective, and actually doesn't look too bad. I'm going to come over and I'm going to set the perspective to 22. So I'm going to set the perspective to 22. And then I'm going to come down to the extrude depth, and the extrude depth I have here was 260. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to set this to 260. And then I'm going to come back and click up here, and there you have, and I'm going to hit OK for now so we can go back and take a look at this. So there's the first step in doing this. It actually looks to me like it might be a little bit wider on this. I might have actually reduced it slightly. So let me go back in. Oh, and this is important so that you know this, that when you want to go back in and you want to work with your model, you always got to go to the appearance panel, and then you're going to double click on this, which will then open this up. You hit preview, and then you can come in here, and I'm going to try setting this to 250. Let's see if 250 is any better. And yeah, it is, and it isn't quite yet. I think I'll probably leave it the way it is. I think I'm just going to leave it the way it is and hit OK. Hit OK. Okay, and now what I want to do with this is I want to see if I can get this thing looking more like this. Because as you can see when I deselect it, it looks pretty square this way. And that's not what I'm really looking for. I'm looking for something a little more like that. But this is where we run into problems. Because once I start distorting this shape here, then these graphics that I'm going to put onto the surface will not distort along with it. So I have to be somewhat careful doing this. So I'm going to select this shape, and I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to put on the free transform tool, and I'm going to look for the settings, and this one here, perspective. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to very carefully hold this down, and I'm just going to bring this up a little bit, not a lot, just like that. And now when I deselect it, can you see now it really begins to look like mine? That's what I'm looking for. That's the first step to this. Okay, so I got that much going, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go Object, Unlock All, because I want to get this guy, and I want to move this over, and I want to bring this guy in to play. Grab this, bring this guy over here, and place it so that it is lined up on the panels. We get it lined up on the panels like that, right there. That's good, and move it up just a touch. Okay. And now I'm going to go Object, Lock, Selection. And I'm going to probably go to my Layers panel, go to Window, and go to Layers. And I'm going to reorder the layers a little tiny bit here. So I got my trace layer back here. That is that little, that's that one image that I'm not showing. This is my, there's my top, and there's my carton. So this is we'll call this carton top. That's good. And we're going to call this work layer. Work layer. Okay. And I think I'll probably lock this layer and that layer and that layer, which this doesn't matter. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in, and it looks like I'm actually pretty close. I can get rid of that for the time being. And I can get rid of that for the time being. It actually looks sort of like I'm pretty close here. I mean, you can see I'm off a little bit at the top. I wonder if I'm low at the bottom. I might have, let's see, go to my layers and unlock it for a second. Work layer, maybe it don't need to be. Yeah, let's see if I bring it down. Oh, I got to bring it up. That's it. Yeah, bring it up. There. That's probably good right there. And now let's go up to the top and see what it looks like at the top. And yeah, it's a little bit high, but that's okay. We're good. Okay, now, unfortunately, when you start building the top on this, you have to build this by hand. And that's why having a tracing item like this is a good idea. So what I'm going to now do is I'm going to go to my layers panel, and I'm going to go to the work layer, and I think I'll lock the work layer. And now I'm going to come up and I'm going to create a new layer, which I'll call top. Okay. And I'm going to start building my top elements on the top layer. So what I'm going to do is, to do this, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to, I guess what I think I'll do probably first is I'll probably double click on this, and I'll probably set the color a little darker, because you need to have a little bit of a differentiation between your panels. So I've set the color a little bit darker. Come over here and get the pen tool, regular old pen tool. Might need more than just a pen tool, so I'll bring them all out. There's my pen tool. And I'm going to come over here to this point right there, and I'm going to click. And then I'm going to come up to that point right there, and I'm going to click. And then I'm going to come over to here, and I'm going to click. And then I'm going to come over to here, actually, and click. And then I'm going to come over to where I started, and I'm going to click. And now, if I deselect that, you can see that I have a top, but I actually need it to be a little bit darker still. So I'm going to drag it down, make it a little darker again. There, and now you can see it. All right, so if I come over to my layers panel, let's go View, Fit Artboard, and Window, and let's see if I can go open my layers up. Let's see if I can, this layer can be hidden. That layer, this layer can be hidden. There you go. If I deselect that, okay, do you see what I got? Bring my carton top back. That's where I'm going. That's what I got, okay? So what I'm doing essentially is I'm adding my own top to this, because I can't really render that in 3D. But since I have a model that I'm working from, I can fake it, and it's going to end up looking very realistic. So let's bring the carton top back, and let's work on the next section, which is this guy right here, that piece at the top. Let's go View, Zoom out, and let me get this thing positioned a little bit better, and I'll show you how I did that. Make sure I'm on the top layer, which I'm on. Let's zoom this thing down. Okay, so now I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to get my rectangle tool. Actually, my rounded rectangle tool works just as well. My rectangle tool works pretty good too. But either one of these tools, I'll go with the rounded rectangle. And I'll come about here, and I'll click, and I'll start dragging my rectangle out. Now, this rectangle is going to want to go in a straight line like this. And I can use my down arrow to make my points, my corners smaller, or my the up arrow to make them bigger. So when you get them to the size that you want, which I'll probably just go with that, that's probably good enough. I'm going to make it go to the size that I want, which is right about there, and I'm going to let go. And now I've basically got a top. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose my free transform tool, and I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to hold down the command or control key, and I'm going to just basically move this down. See that? Look at that. Move it down and look for the model there. Watch when I come a little bit further down. There's the background one. So bring it up until it meets the background one, and bring it in like that. Okay, and now this side, I'm going to click on this side, and I'm going to hold the command or control key down, and I'm going to bring it in and bring it up until it matches over here. There. And now, watch this. I'm going to go View, Fit Artboard, and Window. And once again, I'm going to bring my layers forward, hide the carton top area. I'm going to click on this guy, and I'm going to go Edit, Cut. Click on this, and go Edit, Paste, and Back. Okay? And now when I click on this guy and I come up here and I play around with its color, let's make that a little darker again so that you can see it. There you go. You can see where we're heading with this. And it really begins to look like a 3D carton. All I have to do now is come in here and build my front panel, and I have my 3D carton all made. Then I can go ahead and I can work on putting my graphics on the side. So this is all there is to doing this. This is really a lot easier than you might think. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this. And I'm going to go Object Hide Selection. I've hidden that. Bring back the carton top. And what I need to do now is I need to zoom in here, and I need to work out this area in here. So again, what I'm going to do is make sure I'm in the top layer, get my pen tool, and I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to click right about at that point right there. Let's click right about there, and then come down to this point right here, and come over here to this point right here, and then come up to this point right here. Okay, and now I have that. Whoops, don't want that. Yeah, get rid of that point. Now go Object, Show All. And now if I go View, Fit Artboard and Window, you can see that I have all three of my elements built. And if you hide the background, the carton, let's see, hide the background here, you can see that I got a little bit of a problem right there. But you know what? Easy to fix. Watch how I fix this thing. I'm going to come in here now, and I'm going to take this guy right here. Let's zoom out a bit. Zoom out. Zoom out. Yeah, well, it's not zooming as far as I'd like it to go. Let's view Fit Artboard and Window. Let me just zoom in on the top like that. There, that's what I want. Okay, so what I can do with this now is using the Direct Selection tool. I can come in here and click on that point right there, and all I have to do is up arrow that point over a little bit, and then this guy right here, click on that, and just down arrow it. Yeah, that's good, and bring it in and up. And now I've got that thing more or less sitting where I want. And I notice too that this corner looks a little bit strange, so I'm going to try to click that point right there. I need to get my Direct Selection tool to do that. Click that point right there, and all I need to, if I can get it, I'm having trouble getting it. There we go. And now just move that over one, and I think that does it. It does. So you see now I got a pretty good top here. This one maybe could move back just a hair, although I think it went too far. It probably was good where it was. Right there is probably pretty good. There's a little spot coming out there at the top which I can fix. So if I go View, Fit Artboard and Window, there's your carton. You've got your carton built, okay? The only thing that I need to do now is I need to divide this and put some gradient in there so that there's some shadow. The rest of this has just more or less flat colors. So what I would do to do that is bring back my carton top layer, hide that work layer, and hide that layer. And I would come in on the top layer. I guess what I'll do now is go to create another layer just for a second. And I'll come in, I'll draw a line from this point over here over to, say, over here somewhere. Okay? And maybe I'll just put a stroke of black on that so I can see it. Okay? And now what I'm going to do is show the top layer. And I'll zoom in so you can see what I'm about to do. I'll come in here. And now notice that my line is fine where it is here, but it is not in the right place over here. So let's hide the background, the carton top. And this is what I want to do. I want to get my Direct Selection tool, and I want to click on this guy right here. And I want to bring it over. Whoops, Control Z. I got to click on it first to get it selected. I think I got it now. That's it. Bring it in so that it divides right at that point right there. Okay, so now I have that line which goes right across that rectangular shape. So I get the regular selection tool, click on this, and then shift click on that. So now I got both of those selected. Go to the window menu and go to Pathfinder, and I'm going to divide this. Now, when I divide it, the line goes away, but it breaks the object into two objects, which gives me the inside of the fold and the top inside flat area of the fold. I go Object, Ungroup, and now what I can do is select that one, or I can select that one. And I just click on the gradient, and I have a gradient in there. And then what I can do is come over to this one, click on this one, and put a gradient in there. And this one here is probably okay. What I would do maybe is select that particular gradient, and using the gradient tool, I would maybe come like this. Well, Control Z. I want it to go the other way, I guess. I want it to go like that. And that's probably too extreme. So see if I can get it to work just the way I want it to. I think I probably need to, probably move this thing up. That's probably okay. A little too extreme, maybe. Yeah. Go a little higher. Yeah, it's a little bit strong. Let's go edit, undo gradient, undo gradient, undo gradient. Let's bring it back to where I had it originally, because actually I think the original one was not too bad. That's the one right there. That's pretty good. This is the one that I want to play with, I think. This is the one that I want to come in, and I want to grab the gradient tool, and I want to bring it from here all the way out to about like that. And I do, yeah, but except I want to go the other way. So let's go this way up to about there. There we go. And now if we go view, fit all in window, and bring back our, we can hide this for a second, and bring back our base, we now have our milk carton. And that's more or less how I built my milk carton. That's how I did it. And again, you know, you could spend more time and effort on making this thing look good. So here's the next step. The next step is, don't forget, this guy here is, I can hide this. This guy here is still, did I lock it? Yeah, I think it did. Yeah. This guy here is still a 3D shape. So what I can do is, and what I did was I went back to my, I think it's, did I leave it out, my appearance? I might have shut it. I think I did. I did. Bring out the appearance panel, double click on 3D extrude and bevel, bring it over to where you can see the thing, hit preview, and now we're going to go to map art. And this is where it gets a little tricky because I had trouble determining what's going on here. There's my surface for the side. I want to go to the next surface, which is the back surface. The next surface, there's the surface that I want. That's the one that I want. Come in here, and I want to go to front panel. And what I'm going to have to do with the front panel is this. I'm going to have to rotate the panel around. The panel is, for whatever reason, I don't know, the panel comes in sideways. So I have to rotate the panel around. So I'm going to grab this thing, and I'm going to rotate the panel around until I get it more or less on a straight line, which is about right there. It's very tricky to work with this because it's not really easy to deal with. It kind of is, it fights you a bit. That's probably good. There. See? We're close. Now I'm going to bring it up, and I'm going to fit it to the panel. Okay? And I'm going to just drag this thing out until it fits on the panel. And there you have it. Look at that. And I'm going to deselect, or actually, I'm going to hit OK. And I'm going to come over here and hit OK. And deselect, and there you have the front panel applied. I mean, look at that. Isn't that amazing? It's so easy. So now, if I tried to put the side panel on this thing, let me show you what happens, and you'll see why I did what I did. So now what I'm going to do is, again, double-click on this, preview it, okay? And now what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to map the art onto the side. There's the side. First of all, I want you to take a look at what's going on here. You have a rectangular shape right here, but notice that it also has the indication that the thing has been skewed. It's been perspective. Okay, the problem with this is you can't really apply that effect to the art that you're about to put on it, and you'll see what I mean in a second. I'm going to go to the side panel, and there's the side panel, and there's nothing that I can do to get that. See, I can't get the panel to go in perspective. It's not going to let me go into perspective. I can't hold Shift Control. I can't hold this down and go Shift Control and Alt because it won't give me perspective. So if I select this and hit OK and hit OK, this is what I get on the side, which is no good. So that is why I come back in here and I map the art, hit preview and map the art. Come on. Oh, come on, open up on me. Come on. Yeah, let's see. Maybe I didn't have it selected. Let me try it again. It might have been it. Preview. Map art. There we go. And come back to that surface and hit none. And hit OK. And hit OK. Okay, so I got this far. So what I was forced to do, let's go to the View menu and fit all in window. What I was forced to do, and let's see, I think I can show the other layers. That's what it is. There we go. Okay, so what I was forced to do literally is I was forced to take my object. I have locked still locked. Okay. I was forced to do this. I was forced to come in here. I think I selected too much here. I don't know what that, oh, that's that piece of art. Let's delete that. I don't need that. What I was forced to do is I was forced to take this guy over here, and I was actually physically forced to apply this dimensionally to the side of the panel. How I did that was like this. I come in, I zoom in, and before I do anything, here's what I want to do. I want to come over here and I want to get a rectangle tool. And I want to come over here and I want to make a rectangle the same size as this. Make the same size rectangle as this. Okay. And for a moment, I'm just going to move that out of the way. All right. So now what I'm going to do is with this thing selected, I'm going to move this over and I'm going to align it over to here. Okay. Just about like that. And I am now going to go Object, Arrange, Bring to Front. I might have to layer, I might have to work on the, yeah, it is, it's on the wrong layer. So let me bring this up to that layer right there. Yeah, that works. That'll be okay. All right, so I'm going to move it up just a bit. And that's probably good right there. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is using the free transform tool, I'm going to use free transform or free distort, and I'm going to click on this thing and I'm going to start dragging that thing down until, did I not change this yet? I thought I did. Wait a minute. Oh, you know why? I know why. This is still a symbol. I'm sorry. Yeah, let me explain that. This thing is a symbol. Let's go edit, undo. All right, and edit, undo. Undo free transform. Undo perspective. There we go. And now I can move it out. Okay. This guy here in the middle, I missed this. This guy here is still a symbol. So what I want to do is I want to disassociate this. I want to come in here and I guess I go to the symbols panel and I'm going to break link to symbol. There we go. So that's no longer a symbol, okay? It is grouped. Yeah. Okay, now we're ready to go. I couldn't modify the symbol. Now that it's no longer a symbol, I'm going to be able to modify it. And the reason it was a symbol is because I wanted to show you that I couldn't get it to work on the side panel, so it was a symbol. That's what I would be working with. So now it's no longer a symbol. I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to bring it and place it where it needs to be placed, right there. Okay? And I think at the bottom here, I noticed that this thing is just a little bit off. Let's see if I can fix that a bit. Before I do that, hold on. Make sure I get this just where I want it. And down. That's good, I think. Yeah, that's good. Except that this guy right there is a little high. So I had to actually come in here because, watch, when I click that and drag it off, this thing here wasn't matching up quite right. So I actually created this little piece that I use here to get it to match up a little bit better. All right? And I want to make sure that I place that exactly next to the other so that it really works properly. So let me just make sure I get that really placed properly, which means it's got to go right about like that. That's good. All right. Now I'll go View, Fit, Artboard, and Window. And what I'm going to do with this is, since it's grouped, make sure it is. See, it's grouped. Okay. Now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to use my Free Distort. And now I should be able to come in here and click on this and bring it in like that. It's still not doing. Oh, wow. Isn't that interesting? Oh, it's still. Oh, boy. Undo perspective. I thought I broke the connection to that. Let me do it again. It is. Why isn't it broken? I'm not sure why it's doing this. Let me try this. Object ungroup. Let me see if that's the case. Hold on. Let me see if this is going to work now. It's still not doing it. It goes right back to being a symbol. Isn't that odd? Try this. Okay. And let's go back. Let's move this out of the way. Let's go edit, paste. There, let's see if that's a symbol now. It doesn't appear to be. Okay, so I think that's it. Now I can move that over here. And now I can move this over here. And let's get that lined up the way I want it. Let's see if this works. Somebody do it. I think that's right. This is. Let's start again. Object, arrange, bring to front. There we go. Bring this over here. See if that's where it needs to be right now. I think so. Yeah, except maybe a little bit over, just a bit more. Yep, once again, I'm just getting this in place. All right, that'd probably be close enough. All right, that's close enough. I think you get the idea. Fit artboard and window. Okay, so now I'm going to select that, select this, object group. Hopefully this will work now. Come over here and let's get our free transform. Let's come in here, click on this point here and drag that point in. And it's still doing it. I'll be damned. Control Z. Why is it doing that? I can't understand why this is. Let's go object, expand. Why is this thing not letting me turn it into a symbol or getting it detached from being a symbol? That I'm really mystified by this group. Transform. Nope. I don't know why this is doing this. Place. Well, I don't know. I'm really mystified by this. This thing should no longer be a symbol. Let me just see this. As soon as I try to do this, it just goes right back to being a symbol. Yeah, see, look at that. That's bizarre. I don't really get it. I don't really get it. I'm not sure why this is doing this. Unless, let's go to the object menu and let's go image trace, make. Okay, and let's come over to the panel and let's go over here and make this much more. Let's go instead of black and white, go color, and let's go high on the paths, high on this, low on this. Okay, and it looks pretty nasty, but I think that'll do it for now. And let's go object, image trace, expand. All right, so there, we have that. I think this will do it. I shouldn't have to do this, but the only reason I'm doing this is because I'm having trouble with my symbol for some reason, which I can't really explain. I did it earlier to make sure I was ready with this, and now it's just giving me trouble. So in order to not just bog down on this, I just figured I'd go back in and make sure it's all where I can work. So I'll go View, Fit Artboard and Window, and now I'm going to select the whole thing, and I'm going to go Object Group. Okay, and now hopefully this will work. I'll come over here, place this where I want it to be placed, and I think I'm noticing, again, that this guy here, let's come in here, it's a little bit lower than I want it to be, so let's just move it up, and let's get it into a position where it lines up better, and that'll do it. Okay, so now let's select this thing. Actually, this is really not good. Object, lock, selection. Let's select this guy. Okay, we're going to have to deselect that. Deselect that. I thought I grouped it. Object group. It is group. Why? Oh, you know why? Because it's a group selection tool. All right, so I click on this. Okay, there we go. All right, now I think I should be able to come in here and I should be able to distort this because I did it earlier. So I hold down the shift key. I don't even need to actually hold down the shift key. Just bring it down. There we go. Okay, that's what I'm looking for. So essentially, you have to make sure that this has been turned from a bitmap into a vector. And now what you can do literally is you can come in here and you can just drag this until it's positioned the way you want it on that side panel. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to drag this up until it gets exactly where I want it to be. I think that's probably close. Let's deselect for a second and see what we got. And let me do this. Let me go into the layers panel. Let me hide the background layer. Which layer is it? That's the work layer. No, that's that layer. What's this I'm looking at? Carton top? Yeah, that's it. Okay. So yeah, so there it is. I'm pretty close, except right there is a little bit off. So again, I'll select it and grab this, and I'll just come over and I'll tweak this top just a touch and get it right where I want it. Right about there is probably pretty good. It'll work. Good. That works. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is take this guy and I'm going to bring this in front like this. Okay. Object, arrange, bring to front. Let's go edit, cut. Edit, paste in front. That's easier. And I'm going to do the same thing with this. I'm going to start off by grabbing this guy right here, and I'm going to distort it and bring it down until it comes over to that point right there, and this until it comes into here, and then I will adjust it. Let's see if I can figure out how to get this adjusted. And yeah, bring it back over to here. All right, to there. That's good. And this may be a little touch higher, right about like that. Perfect. And this guy up here, just a little bit higher too. There. Great. There it is. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go in and I'm going to set this up to be a medium gray and hit OK. And then I'm going to go into the window menu and I'm going to come down to transparency. And I'm going to change it from normal to multiply or darken. Darken is good too. Any one of those two, multiply or darken. And I think I actually like the multiply better. Yeah, I do. And then if you want, you have a choice. You can either come back in here and double click on this and bring up the brightness somewhat that way, or you can come to the opacity and you can drag the opacity slider down and lighten it up that way. And in the end, what you end up with is this really cool 3D carton. Let's go view, zoom out a little bit so you get a better look at it. There's your 3D carton. And essentially what you're going to be able to do is put your graphics on that carton. All you have to do is make the carton, determine the size of the carton, and make sure that you make your panels the same size as what you're making your carton out of. And you can very easily map the one to the front, which will work good. If you modify the side like I did dimensionally, you're going to have trouble doing that. So again, you can fake it by actually taking your side panel and using the free distort tool, distorting it right onto the surface. But keep in mind that it needs to be turned into a vector. So I actually had to go in and use this thing here. This is what I used. I clicked on this. And I came in and I went object, and I went into image trace, make, and then of course I brought out my settings panel and I turned it from black and white into color, and I can change the number here from limited to full tone, and then I'm going to pump up the paths significantly, pump up the corners significantly, remove all the noise, and I get something that looks like that. Now, keep in mind that this is a mock-up. You're not really doing this for anything other than presentation purposes. So getting a look like that is more than good enough. And then you can close this thing and you can go object, image trace, expand. And it turns it into a vector. Once it becomes a vector, you can then come in and you can distort this thing. You can't distort it when it's, I didn't really hit the distort key, did I? This is what I want. I distorted that. See how I could easily distort this thing? So that's what you want. And there you go. That's how you make your package. Listen, try this and enjoy it. Have fun doing it. It's really a lot of fun. And when you get this done and you look at it and see how you did and how you were able to put this together, I think you'll really get a kick out of it. So that's it for the night. Unfortunately, nobody's here. I can't ask you any questions and all, but give me any questions. But you know when you can reach me. I can be reached in the evenings, Mondays through Friday pretty much, except for Monday, of course, we're here. And on Thursday and Friday and Saturday, you can give me a call during the day. So that's it for the night. Thank you all for coming. I'll have a good night.